What's up, guys? It is your evocative, provocative, talkative host, EJ. Today I am the big kahuna because my parents went to Hawaii and all I got was this crappy t-shirt. But you know what? I'm gonna roll with it. So today we are having ourselves another little car rave. Last time I raved about the word wordsmith. Today I'm gonna take it slightly different tack. We're gonna talk about something I think is a little bit underappreciated in today's writing circles, both critically and creatively, and that is romance. Now you might be saying, EJ, come on, you're a manly man, you're a man's man, you've got the beard, you've got fairly masculine fashion choices. What's going on with this romance thing? What are you talking about? What's going on in your head? Well, romance goes deeper than just love stories. You know, it's a similar theme if you think about it. You know, it's aspirational tales, but romance in the traditional sense, in the sense of a romance narrative, is an aspirational story. It is probably best summarized by the hero's journey, where we start small, we start, you know, minding our own business, essentially, going through our life without really any concern for the outer cares of the world, and a call to adventure occurs. Whether that call to adventure is meeting a mysterious stranger at a coffee shop, your eyes meet and suddenly there's this intensity and you must know more about them, or maybe your hometown gets wiped out, or maybe your aunt and uncle get killed by the soldiers of the oppressive warlord controlling your home. But whatever the call to adventure may be, it leads itself out to a series of tests and trials. You could have the social awkwardness or family drama of your average romance movie, or you could have a test of skill. You could have perilous adventures, being waylaid by bandits, or having to fight through an army of highly trained thugs to avenge the death of a loved one. All of those are staples of common romantic narratives, because a romantic narrative isn't necessarily just about love. It's typically about some transcendent ideal. It could be about love, it could be about justice, it could be about honor or dignity or revenge, but they typically focus on using characters as vehicles to establish the existence or to illustrate the application of these higher ideals. And they typically you typically find them in more what some people might call lowbrow entertainment, you know, the paperback novel of the entertainment world, as it were. These are superhero movies, these are fantasy movies. These are typically a bit escapist, and I think that's another reason they get looked down on, is critics love things that remind them of how miserable their real lives are. And critics don't like to be reminded that there's cool stuff going on in people's imaginations that doesn't happen in the real world, because all they can do is sit there and think, man, I wish the real world was like that, but it's not, so I'm gonna be sad now. And that's unfair to critics, I know. There are plenty of aspirational critics out there. I just wish they'd actually speak up and do something about it. Again, unfair to critics. But anyway, this romance, they are typically escapist, they're typically aspirational, and I think people kind of forget we have a cynical age right now, in literature, in film, in creative endeavors in general. We have a cynical age where nothing old can be good, nothing traditionally beautiful can be praised, and nothing good can be aspired to. All we have now are deconstructions and subversions, but I think people have somewhat forgotten that you can't deconstruct something that hasn't been constructed, and you can't subvert something that hasn't been established. And so these romantic narratives are the building blocks of much of entertainment, even beyond the standard popcorn films and paperback novels of the world. Anything that is trying, you know, a dark fantasy like Game of Thrones wouldn't be nearly as appealing if we didn't have things like Lord of the Rings or the Chronicles of Narnia to compare it to. And I think with the rise of this dark fantasy, this cyberpunk sci-fi, the deconstructive and subversive fiction, we've kind of forgotten where we started. But every now and again, you do see little glimmers and glimpses of hope, where you establish this is what a superhero is. I think about the first year or two of the Superman reboot from DC Comics Rebirth back in 2015, the 2015 through 2017, maybe first half of 2018, written by Peter J. Tomasi and drawn by Patrick Gleason, is probably one of my absolute favorite Superman storylines of all time, because it's just Superman and Lois Lane and their kid living a small town life and trying to adjust to raising Superman's son, who's turning out to have a lot of his dad's issues, and Superman, struggles with, well, how do I raise him? But at the end of the day, there's still that aspiration. He's still Superman. He's still got to be the best father he can. Just because he's never done it before doesn't mean he's not going to try. And those aspirational characters are one of the big things that our cynical world seems to be attacking now. We can't have characters who try to be noble. We can't have characters with a sense of duty for some reason. A good friend of mine read portions of Atlas and portions of Zephyr, and she was very annoyed with Sam as she got through, because she's like, he's too good, he's too noble, and he's trying too hard. Why can't he just take a break and be normal like us? And I said, well, because he's not normal like us, he's a superhero. She said, well, that doesn't mean he can't be human. But I would say it kind of does, because in a romance narrative, those main characters that you're following are more than human. Even if technically, biologically, they are nothing more than human. The whole point is that you're looking at this person who really serves to model for us what we ought to do, how we ought to behave. They're not trying to present us. I don't want to see myself in Superman. I want to see Superman in me. I want to be like Superman. I don't want him to behave the way I do, because I'm a regular, flawed human being who kind of sucks, who's kind of sarcastic and it can be judgmental at times and very set in my ways. I don't want Superman to be like me. I want to be more like Superman, is the idea. And so I think in our drive to see everyone represented on the page, or everyone represented on the screen, which has been the big push in creative endeavor in the past decade or two, is this push to represent everyone. We've kind of forgotten that we don't want to be represented on the page or on the screen, because we suck. we want to, we want people to struggle with the same things we do. We want people to experience the same things we do, but we don't want them to react or behave the way we do. And romance narrative gives us a good chance and a good framework from which to build people who experience our struggles, or maybe more, and yet come out of it better human beings because of who they are, and because a romance narrative allows it to grow like that. And so that's really why I love the genre. I love that narrative style. Among romance, comedy, tragedy, and satire, I think romance is my favorite. I think those aspirational characters and that escapism and that hopefulness, that ability to really dig in and say, this is what we want to be, is what draws me to the genre. So I guess you could say that's why I'm a hopeless romantic.
Hey, did you enjoy listening to me rant, ramble, and rave? Well, go ahead and like the video and subscribe. It'll really help the channel. Thanks.